In this video, I'm going to teach you how to do a double-sided print then cut using your Cricut machine. Hey everyone, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, my name is Carly and I love all things crafting, specifically electronic cutting machines, so Cricut, silhouettes, glow forges, all that good stuff. And today's tutorial will be using a Cricut machine. So if you are a Cricut user and you need help with additional tutorials, check out my other videos. I have so many Cricut tutorials, and consider subscribing to my channel. I would consider this tutorial a more advanced tutorial. So if you have never printed an image with your printer and then cut it on your Cricut machine, I do have another print then cut tutorial that walks you through what a print then cut is and how to do it. So I will link that video if you've never done a print then cut. If you've done a print then cut and you're confident in your skills, then I would say that this tutorial still is an advanced tutorial, but I will walk you through and hold your hand as much as I can. So we are going to print on both sides of our cardstock so that we can center our card and have a double-sided print then cut. In the software, there isn't a super beginner-friendly way to do this, so I have a workaround, I'd say, to show you how to do it. So let's jump into Design Space and I will show you how to upload your images or design your cards in Cricut Design Space and then print them on both sides and cut them out. For the size of my cards, I ended up doing 4 inches wide by 5.5 inches tall. And the reason I chose those dimensions is because I purchased these smaller envelopes that will fit in my proposal boxes. So these are about 4.5 by 5.75. So my 4-inch by 5.5-inch card will work. So you can make your proposal cards whatever size you want, but with these dimensions, you can fit 2 on each piece of paper. So if you want to build everything from scratch within Design Space, you'll start by grabbing a shape, whatever shape you'd like. We can use this rounded square, and then we can unlock the dimensions and start making our card. So we'll just type out our dimensions and you can see that my card is basically ready to go. I just need to add names and text and photos and all that good stuff. So if you like designing in Design Space, you can design your entire card here. Or if you're like me and you want to design in a third-party software, you can use Silhouette Studio if you have Business Edition, Adobe Illustrator, or Canva. Those are all great options. I used Adobe Illustrator and Canva, so I'm going to upload my cards. And all you do is click Upload Image, choose your file, and I have them all right here. So I'm going to select all 4 of my images and add them to my canvas. They might come in larger than you planned, so I'm going to align everything to the center so they're all on top of each other, and then that way I can easily resize everything at the same time. So up at the top, I'm going to click 4 inches, type in a 4, and click Enter. And that will resize my cards all to be 4 by 5.5. So I have all my cards. Okay, so I have a card for Michelle and I have a little mock card for me from my sister. Now that we have our uploads, the way that you're going to design this to print perfectly centered on the front and the back, and this is a workaround and this is what I have found works best. I'm going to grab a shape, a square specifically, and I'm going to make it 9.25 inches. Now I'm going to drag my images onto my square. So I'm going to send this to the back. Let's hide this out of the way. This was just my planner, so I didn't forget my dimensions. We'll bring this over here. So I have a square that's 9.25 by 9.25, and I'm going to send this to the back so that it's out of the way. Next, I'm going to grab my cards. So I'm going to print both of the fronts right here, and I want them to be inside the square. I'm also going to drag this one. Now, this is not super intuitive the first time you do it, but when we flip over our paper, we'll have Carly on this side, and let me grab a piece of paper. All right, I do have a printout so you can see why you need to flip the orientation. So Michelle is on the left and Karley's on the right, but when you flip it over, you want Karley to be on the back of Karley. So now Karley's on the left and Michelle's on the right, so they're opposite. Karley, Michelle, Michelle, Karley. So hopefully that gives you a visual of as to why you need to put them the opposite of each other. So you want your Karley opposite, kind of diagonal from each other. Now to align this all perfectly, I'm going to highlight this card, and my square, and I'm going to click Align to the right. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, so I'm just using my cursor to highlight this card, and the square, and you can check my work over here, this card, and the square, and I'm going to align to the left. So now these are perfectly positioned and the entire image is 9.25. The next thing I'm going to do is center up my images. So I'm going to click my bridesmaid proposal here and my bridesmaid proposal here and align those to the center. I know we're getting a little complicated, but stick with me. Next, we're going to attach those so we don't lose that positioning. All right, now we're done with these two. Those are attached together. We're going to do the same thing here. Select the first one, select the second one, and align those to the center. So now they're perfectly aligned, and you can see that the dimension is 9.25 by whatever height you want. And I'm going to attach those together. I have my cards, they're the exact same dimensions. Before you send it to print, my height's a little bit different, but that's okay. Before you send it to print, you want to make sure that the width is exactly the same and it measures at 9.25. The reason that you want it to be 9.25 is it will center on your print and cut paper perfectly. So let's save our work just so that we don't lose anything. And then we're going to click Make. Now let's take a look here. You can see that my image is perfectly centered. You do not want to move it on this page. If you accidentally shift it or move it or anything, cancel out and then send it again. Because at this point, you want everything to stay exactly where it is, because when you print it, everything is centered and it will print exactly where you want it to be. You'll notice that Michelle is at the top, Karley is at the bottom, and on this one, Karley is at the top, Michelle is on the bottom, and that is intentional. Now we're going to click Continue without moving anything, and we're going to send it to the printer. We are using a printer to do a print then cut, so you'll use your printer and then you'll use your Cricut to cut. So click Send to Printer. I don't need a bleed since my background is white, but it's just force of habit. I always leave it on. And then I'm going to click Use System Dialog and click Print. It doesn't matter which one you print first. You'll get this pop-up, and this is important. We're going to set up our document so it prints the best quality possible. So I want to do printer options, and I'm going to click Print Settings. Every printer will look a little bit different depending on what printer you have, what drivers you have installed. So I'm going to click Print Settings. I want to print from my paper tray. I'm using cardstock, but I found that plain paper, bright white paper, the setting works great. And then I'm going to make sure it's on quality and click OK. And then I'm going to click Print. My first print just finished printing. Before we send the next one to print, we want to load this same sheet of paper back into our printer. So the orientation that my paper came out was with the names on the side. I don't want to rotate this at all, so all I'm going to do is just flip it right back up and load it back into the printer. So I didn't turn it. My printer is in a very wonky spot, so I didn't turn it at all. I just loaded it right back in so that it prints on the opposite side. Then back over at the computer, I'm going to send this one to the printer, use System Dialog so I can open up that same window, click Print, and use the same printer options, Print Settings, Paper Tray, and Quality. Click OK, and then Print. So both sides are printed now. I have Karley and Michelle, and then flip it over. Michelle is right on the back, and Karley is on the back of Karley. So that is exactly what you want to see. And the images are right on top of each other, which is why the 9.25 dimension is important. I will say that I noticed that Cricut's quality of the print, it compresses your image quality just a bit. So if you notice that the quality isn't as good as you want, you can definitely see it on this smaller text. It's actually really clear on my file. So if you notice this, I will do a little bit more detail on how you can work around that as well. But we're gonna walk through how to cut this on the Cricut first, and then I'll walk through that. Okay, so I have my print and I need a cutting mat. You're going to load this onto your mat based off the image. So you can see on my image, Michelle is at the top left corner. So I wanna make sure that I match that. We're only cutting this once, so you can cut it either on the front or the back. It won't make a difference. So I have it loaded on. I'm going to set my material to medium cardstock. The default pressure is fine. And then I'm going to load that into my machine. On the machine side, you'll want to load in your mat underneath these guides. And then while pushing against the rollers, click the load button. Once it's loaded in the mat, you'll click the go button. And now the machine is using this little light to detect where these black lines are, and that's how it knows where to cut. Print Then Cut is available on the Cricut Maker machines, the Explore machines, and the newer, larger Joy, the Joy Extra, I think it's called. Once it's detected the marks, it'll go around and cut our rounded rectangles. We can unload it. And now all that's left to do is take it off the mat. So I like to flip my mat over and push away my images. And here we go. Here's my Karley bridesmaid proposal. And on the back, the details are perfectly centered. And here's the other one. So 2 cards on one sheet of 8.5 by 11 cardstock, and everything is perfectly centered. I love this process. My only qualm about it is that Cricut Design Space did compress my image quality, and it's just a little difficult to read, and the colors are slightly off when I print through Cricut Design Space. So if you are running into the same issue and you're saying, okay, I know they can be a little bit better, let me show you what I did to make them just a little more clear. So I redid them and I printed directly from my computer and not through Cricut. And you can see the text quality is so much better, and my color quality is more accurate to what they actually are designed to look like. So on the bottom, you can see that the colors are just a little bit lighter, and these are the colors I was going for. So just super clear text compared to the Cricut quality. So let me show you what I did. If you're not experiencing those issues with Cricut, then you can be done and you're good to go. But if you're like me and you know it can be just a little bit better, keep watching. All right, back over to the computer. Again, this is an advanced tutorial, so stick with me. We're gonna cancel our cut. Cancel this. And we can delete all of our bridesmaid information. We're going to make a print planner that looks like this. So to do that, we're going to grab the shapes again, and whatever image you want your final bridesmaid proposals to be, choose that. So if you want them to be ovals, circles, hearts, whatever you choose, I'm going to do the same rounded rectangles. My final bridesmaid proposals will be 4 inches wide by 5.5 inches tall, and I will have 2 of them on each sheet of paper. So I'm just going to make a copy and grab that here. Let's delete this so we don't need to see that anymore. Next, we're going to do the exact same steps that we did before. Grab a square and make that 9.25. I'm sure other dimensions work here too, but 9.25 used to be the Print Then Cut limit. I think it's a little bit bigger, but 9.25 gave me the perfectly centered image that I needed. So I'm not going to mess with that, and I'm going to leave it at 9.25. We're going to send this to the back by clicking Arrange and Send to the Back, and use the same process where you put the smaller rectangles in the square and align it to the right. Align the other one. So I have this one selected and the big square. Align that to the left. We can delete our big square now. And I'm going to align those to the center. Center vertically. So now everything is aligned, and I'm going to click Attach. Next, we need to change this to be a print then cut. So right now it's just a basic cut. To change it to a print then cut, all we have to do is click the operation, scroll down, and choose Print then cut. Now it's a print then cut. This technique is a hack, it's a workaround, but it worked great for me, so I'm going to show you what I did. Again, take this information and do with it what you will. It's not supported or endorsed by Cricut, but it works for me. So moving on, we're going to click Make It. And you can see that I have my image that looks very similar to my bridesmaid proposal, and click Continue. Next, I'm going to send this to the printer, but we're not actually going to print. We're going to click Use System Dialog and click Print to get that System Dialog window that pops up. Now I'm going to click on this PDF icon here and click Save as PDF. Let's call this our print planner, and save it to our desktop. All right. Next, we're going to come over to Adobe Illustrator or whatever design program you're using. I'm using Adobe, but this will work in Canva or Silhouette Studio Business Edition. I'm using a letter size paper that is landscape, and I'm going to click Create. I'm going to pull in my PDF print planner. Once your image is in whatever design program you're using, I'm going to rotate that 90 degrees by just using my mouse and rotating that 90 degrees. I want this to be perfectly centered on my artboard. So to do that, I have it aligned to my artboard, and I want that to be centered up perfectly so that it matches what comes from Design Space. I should mention that this will only work if you designed your images within the design program. If you used Cricut Design Space, you would have to rebuild them within another program. So now I'm going to open up my files that I designed within Adobe Illustrator and bring them in. So here are all my bridesmaid proposals, and I'm going to paste those into my new document. I actually need 2 of these artboards. So over on my artboard window, I'm going to make another artboard and make a copy of that template. Okay, so I have my documents set up almost all the way. I feel like I've said this a few times, but this process is super hacky, so stick with me. Next, I'm going to grab one of my cards. It doesn't matter which one. I just need to make a copy so I can grab this background shape. So I'm going to ungroup it, delete out all the other stuff, and now I'm left with the shape of my card. I want to align those on to the top of my gray rectangles as best as I can so that the gray is all covered up. I also can use my align tools. And then I'm just going to steal that whole thing and bring it over so I don't have to redo that process. And just align that to my artboard. So now I have something that looks like this. Now you're probably asking, well, how are you going to know where everything is? I'll show you. First, I'm going to lock all of this in place so we don't move anything. So I'm going to click Objects and Lock. Oops, Object, Lock Selection. So now all of this is locked in place and I won't accidentally move it. Next, I'm going to turn it into outline view, just like this. And now, boom, I can see these outlines, which is what I want to see. My cards are all grouped together, so they all the elements move together. And I'm just going to bring them over and line them up to the lines. First, I'll do it roughly, and then I'll zoom in and show you in a little bit. Next, I'm going to place the other card. Remember that we do need the opposite So I want Michelle to be first since it was second, and I want Karley to be second so that when I flip over that piece of paper, they're on the correct side. It doesn't have to be perfect because our Cricut machine is going to cut based off that template. So once I have everything pretty lined up, I am going to select everything and just align it to the center so they're all equal. And then I'm going to turn it off of outline mode. So you can see that I run into a little bit of an issue. I need to pull my printed elements forward. So I'm going to select everything. As a reminder, the other images are all locked, so I'm not worried about selecting those. And I'm going to click Arrange and Bring to the front. Boom. Now that it's all designed, you can save it and export it, or you can print directly from Adobe Illustrator. I'm just going to save it as a PDF so that I can show you how to print from Preview, since most people have the Preview program on their computer. So you can call it whatever you want, and then Adobe PDF is fine. So I'm going to click Save. We'll replace that, and these settings are fine. All right, I'll open this using my Preview, and you can see that it looks great. I have my registration marks on both documents, and again, they are opposite. So Karley, Michelle, Michelle, Karley. And we can print this. Up at the top, I'm going to click File and then Print. And my print window will open and looks very similar to what you saw in Cricut Design Space. And I want to make sure everything is scaled to 100%, which is great. And then my printer options down here, we'll open that. Print settings, open that. I want to print from my paper tray, plain white paper, and quality, and then click OK. And I'm also going to turn on two-sided printing. If your printer has the option to do two-sided printing, this will make your life so much easier. It will print exactly on the back and the front. So I'm going to turn that on. And since my paper is landscape, I want it to flip over on the short edge. So short edge binding. And I'm going to choose text and photos and then click OK. And we can print it out. So here's the print from that file that I just created. And you can see that the quality side by side, this is the Cricut print. You can just see that that is so much more clear, and it's definitely really noticeable on the back with the text. So Cricut quality, and then printing it with that hack, which I know is very annoying that you have to do that big hack. So now that you have that printout, let me show you what to do. So I'm going to load this with the top of my image on the left-hand side. Then from Cricut Design Space, we're still on the same page that we used that template from. We're not going to upload any of our images to Cricut Design Space. So everything is staying out of Cricut Design Space. I'm going to click medium cardstock, and I'm going to load in my design. We'll load it in the same way. Place your mat underneath these guides, under the rollers, and while still holding, click the load button. So Cricut is reading the registration marks from that template design that we created. So it's going to use the gray rectangles to determine where to cut, but it doesn't need to know what is actually on our paper. Then we're going to click this flashing go button. I'll unload this and we'll pull these off the mat. And there we have it. Really great quality prints. The colors match the colors that you saw on my screen. And I know that it's a workaround, but it's worth it to me to get that really clear print quality. The only thing left to do is load up our bridesmaid proposal box. Of course, this is a mock proposal. I'm not proposing to myself, but I did think this template was super cute. I'll link to where I found this cute design. And I created these little envelopes with iron-on the front. I actually sealed them with wax seals for the real ones. And then inside the box, we'll load them up with goodies. Champagne, maybe some chapstick, lip gloss, some mints, something cute. And then on the top, I'm gonna tie it up with a cute little bow. How cute is that? All right, if you have any questions on this tutorial, I know that it's an advanced tutorial and I'm sorry that it ended up going so long, but I do feel like this is one of my most asked questions. How do you print on both sides and get good quality prints and it all centered up? So if you have any questions, let me know in the comments. And if you found this video helpful, make sure to like it and consider subscribing to my channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.